The first time I saw him, it wasn't his golden fur I noticed. It was the way those trembling brown eyes shone in the dark, like they were begging me to be kind. It was a Thursday evening in Burlington, Vermont, and I'd just gotten home from another 12-hour shift at the hospital. My scrubs still smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion. The October air had that crisp bite that promised winter was coming, and all I wanted was to get inside, pour a glass of wine, and pretend I didn't have 3 more shifts before the weekend. If you've ever worked healthcare during flu season, you know that bone-deep tired I'm talking about, the kind where even your tiredness is tired. But there was my 8-year-old son, Jake, standing in our backyard with a flashlight calling, "Here, puppy, puppy," in that stage whisper kids use when they're trying to be sneaky, but failing spectacularly. The beam of light wavered across our lawn, catching the fog of his breath in the cold air. "Jake Andrew Patterson, what are you doing?" I called from the back door, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. He turned, guilt written all over his freckled face. "There's a puppy, Mom. He's scared and cold, and he's been under Emma's old playhouse all day. Mrs. Rodriguez saw him this morning when she was walking Buttons." Mrs. Rodriguez was our next-door neighbor, a sweet woman in her 80s, who had a network of information that would put the CIA to shame. If she said there was a puppy, there was definitely a puppy. I grabbed my jacket, the thick one with the coffee stain on the sleeve that I kept meaning to wash, and joined Jake in the yard. The playhouse had been there since my daughter Emma left for college 2 years ago, a faded plastic castle that now served mainly as a shelter for rabbits and apparently lost puppies. I could hear the wind chimes from Mrs. Rodriguez's porch tinkling in the breeze, mixing with the distant sound of traffic from Main Street. "How long has he been there?" I asked, crouching down beside Jake. The ground was cold and slightly damp from the afternoon rain, seeping through the knees of my scrubs. The earth smelled rich and dark, like autumn itself, and the plastic playhouse gave a slight squeak as I steadied myself against it. "Since this morning, at least. I tried to give him my sandwich at lunch, but he wouldn't come out." Jake's voice was thick with worry. "What if he's hurt, Mom? What if he's dying?" I aimed the flashlight under the playhouse, and that's when I saw them in full, those eyes that had caught the light. Big, brown, and absolutely terrified. The puppy was pressed against the back wall, trembling. He couldn't have been more than a few months old, some kind of golden retriever mix from what I could see. No collar, ribs showing through matted fur. My heart, which I'd thought was too tired to feel much of anything, squeezed painfully. "Okay," I said, sitting back on my heels. "Go get that leftover chicken from dinner, and grab the old towel from the garage, the blue one we use for the car." Jake's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Does this mean we can keep him?" "We're helping him," I corrected firmly. "That's all. We'll find his owners or take him to the shelter tomorrow." But even as I said it, I remembered the last time I'd said those exact words. That was how we'd ended up with Whiskers the cat 5 years ago. And before that, Fred the hamster. I was, as my ex-husband used to say, a soft touch wrapped in a tough exterior, like a Tootsie Pop but for strays. Jake ran off, his sneakers slapping against the wet grass. I stayed crouched by the playhouse, talking softly to the puppy. "Hey there, little guy. Rough day, huh? I get it. I've had a few of those myself lately." The puppy's ears perked slightly at my voice, but he didn't move. I could see him better now. Definitely a golden retriever mix, with floppy ears and paws too big for his body. Despite the dirt and matted fur, there was something sweet about his face, a gentleness that made me think of Emma's old stuffed animals. Jake returned with the chicken and towel, practically vibrating with excitement. "Should I put it near the opening?" "Let's try that," I said. "Then we'll back up and give him space." We set the plate of chicken just inside the playhouse entrance and retreated to the porch steps. The motion sensor light clicked off, leaving us in the soft glow from the kitchen window. Jake pressed against my side, and I put my arm around him, feeling the familiar weight of his small body. He still smelled like little boy. that mixture of playground dirt and apple juice that I knew wouldn't last much longer. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. I was about to suggest we go inside and try again later when we saw movement. A black nose appeared at the playhouse entrance, sniffing cautiously. Then the whole head emerged, those brown eyes scanning the yard for danger. "Stay very still," I whispered to Jake, though I didn't need to. He was frozen in place, barely breathing. The puppy crept forward, belly low to the ground, and grabbed a piece of chicken. The sound of his desperate chewing carried across the yard. Quick, frantic gulps punctuated by the crunch of cartilage. He retreated immediately, but not as far. We watched him eat, those desperate sounds making my chest tighten. "Hi, puppy," Jake whispered. "It's okay. We're nice. My mom saves people at the hospital and I share my fruit snacks at lunch." And that's when I made my first mistake. I met those brown eyes, really met them, and saw not just fear, but hope. The kind of hope that says, maybe, just maybe, the world might be kind after all. "Let's see if he'll come closer," I said, pulling a piece of chicken from my pocket. I'd grabbed extra, knowing how these things usually went. I tossed it halfway between the playhouse and our spot on the steps. The puppy watched the chicken arc through the air and land on the grass. He crept forward again, faster this time, and gobbled it up. His tail, which had been tucked firmly between his legs, gave the tiniest wag. "He wagged," Jake squealed, then immediately clamped his hand over his mouth. "Sorry," he whispered. "I got exciteditis. That's what Dad calls it when I—" He stopped, face clouding over. But the puppy had noticed Jake's excitement, and instead of running, he stood there looking at us, and his tail gave another tiny wag. I tossed another piece of chicken, closer this time. He took 3 brave steps forward and ate it, eyes never leaving our faces. This continued piece by piece, until the puppy was just a few feet away. I could see him clearly now in the light from the kitchen. He was thin, but not starving, dirty, but not injured. Someone had loved this dog once. You could see it in the way he wanted to trust us, fighting against whatever had taught him to be afraid. "Can I pet him?" Jake asked. "Let him come to you," I said. "Hold out your hand, palm up, and let him decide." Jake extended his small hand, and we waited. The puppy stretched his neck forward, nose working furiously. He sniffed Jake's fingers, then gave them the tiniest lick. Jake giggled, and this time the puppy didn't run. Instead, he licked again, more confidently. "He likes me," Jake breathed, wonder in his voice. "He really, really likes me." That's when Mrs. Rodriguez appeared at the fence, wrapped in what looked like 3 sweaters and a bathrobe. "Oh, good, you found him. I've been worried all day. Poor thing was crying this morning, broke my heart." "Do you know whose dog he is?" I asked hopefully. Maybe this would be easy. Maybe someone was looking for him right now. Mrs. Rodriguez shook her head, her silver hair catching the light. "Never seen him before. I asked around the neighborhood, but nobody's missing a puppy. Probably dumped." She said the last word like it tasted bad. People do that sometimes out by the park. Think the dog will be fine, but they never are. My heart sank. I looked at the puppy, who was now letting Jake scratch behind his ears, tail wagging steadily. His whole body language had changed in just 30 minutes, from terrified to cautiously hopeful. "Well," I said, "I guess he can stay in the garage tonight. Just tonight." Jake whooped, and the puppy danced backward, startled but not scared. "Can I name him?" Jake asked. "Just for tonight?" "No names," I said. "Names make it harder." "But Mom, he needs something to call him. It's only polite." I sighed. This kid and his logic. "Fine. But something temporary." Jake studied the puppy with serious 8-year-old concentration. The puppy sat down, head tilted, like he was waiting for the verdict. "Buddy," Jake decided. "Because he's gonna be my buddy, even if it's just for tonight." We spent the next hour making the garage as comfortable as possible. Jake donated his oldest stuffed animal, a bear missing one eye that he claimed he was too old for anyway. I found an old blanket and made a bed in the corner, away from the lawnmower and paint cans. The garage smelled like motor oil and grass clippings, but it was warm and dry. Buddy, and yes, the name had already stuck, explored cautiously, nose to the ground. When he found the blanket nest, he circled 3 times and curled up with a little sigh that nearly broke my heart. Jake sat beside him, gently stroking his matted fur. "He's so soft under all the dirt," Jake said. "Like a secret soft dog hiding inside a dirty dog. Can we give him a bath?" "Tomorrow," I promised. "Let him rest tonight. He's had a big day." "The biggest day in the whole universe," Jake agreed solemnly. Then quieter. "Do you think he misses his family?" I sat down beside them on the cold concrete floor, pulling Jake against my side. "Maybe, but sometimes families can't take care of their pets, even if they want to. And sometimes," I thought about how to phrase this, "sometimes the family a dog starts with isn't the family they're meant to end up with." Jake considered this. "Like how Dad lives in California now, but we're still okay?" My chest tightened. "Leave it to kids to make connections you don't expect." "Yeah, buddy. Kinda like that." We sat there for a while. Jake petting Buddy, me petting Jake's hair, all of us finding comfort in the quiet garage. The fluorescent light hummed overhead, and somewhere outside a train whistle echoed across the valley. It was peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in months. Maybe since the divorce, if I was being honest. "Mom?" Jake's voice was sleepy now. "I know you said we're not keeping him, but what if nobody wants him?" I looked down at Buddy, who had pressed himself against Jake's leg and was snoring softly. His paws twitched in sleep, chasing dream rabbits already. "We'll figure it out tomorrow," I said, which wasn't really an answer at all. That night, after I'd tucked Jake into bed, after 3 requests for water and 2 checks on Buddy, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, scrolling through lost dog posts on social media. Nothing matched Buddy's description. I posted in a few local groups, found young golden retriever mix, no collar, very sweet. But I already knew what my heart was trying to tell me. At 2 a.m., I woke to whimpering. Not Jake, Buddy. I found myself in the garage in my pajamas and slippers, kneeling beside a scared puppy who'd woken up alone in a strange place. Hey, it's okay," I whispered, stroking his head. "You're safe. You're okay." He pressed against me, trembling, and I did what I'd sworn I wouldn't do. I scooped him up. He weighed less than he should, and carried him inside. Just for tonight, I told myself, just so he wouldn't be scared. I set him up in the laundry room with his blanket and bear, leaving the door open so he could see into the kitchen. The washer and dryer stood like sentinels, and the room smelled faintly of fabric softener. "Better?" I asked. Buddy's tail wagged, and he curled up on his blanket with a contented sigh. I sat with him until he fell asleep again, his breathing evening out into little puppy snores. It was 3 a.m. I had to be up at 6, and I was sitting on my laundry room floor in my pajamas. But something about this felt right in a way things hadn't felt right in a long time. I found myself studying him in the dim light, the way his chest rose and fell, the little woofs he made in his sleep. One ear flopped inside out. His breathing matched mine, slow and steady, and when I shifted slightly, his paw reached out in sleep until it touched my leg. That small gesture of trust from a dog who'd been so scared just hours ago undid something inside me. The next morning, Friday, Jake was up at dawn. I found him in the laundry room, Buddy in his lap, both of them looking guilty. "He was crying," Jake explained, "so I came to check on him, but just to check, not to play or anything." I said, starting the coffee. "And how long have you been checking on him?" "Maybe an hour?" "But Mom, listen, he knows sit. Someone must have taught him before. That means he had a family who loved him, right?" Buddy's tail thumped against the floor, and I noticed Jake had already refilled his water bowl. My son, who I had to remind to brush his teeth, had remembered the dog needed water. "He needs a bath," Jake announced. "He told me." Did he now? With his eyes. They said, I would like to be clean and handsome, please. Also, he might have rolled in something stinky in the garage. I laughed despite myself. All right, after breakfast. But remember, this is just temporary. Right, Jake said, grinning like he knew something I didn't. Super temporary, the most temporary ever. The bath was an adventure. Buddy, it turned out, loved water. What he didn't love was standing still. The moment the warm water hit him, his tail started thumping against the tub like a drum. By the time we finished, Jake and I were soaked, the bathroom looked like a water park, and the sharp scent of puppy shampoo filled the air. Buddy shook himself magnificently, sending drops flying, and Jake shrieked with laughter. He's beautiful, Jake breathed, and he was right. Clean and dry, Buddy was a gorgeous dog, golden fur with white patches on his chest and paws, intelligent eyes, and a smile that seemed permanent. He couldn't have been more than 4 months old. Someone must be missing him, I said, but the words felt hollow now. That afternoon, we took Buddy to the vet, Dr. Patel, who'd been seeing our pets for years. She scanned him for a microchip, none, examined him thoroughly, healthy but undernourished, and gave him his first round of shots. He's lucky you found him, she said, watching Buddy try to climb into Jake's lap on the exam table. Another week on his own and it might have been a different story. We're not keeping him, I said, but even I heard how unconvincing it sounded. Dr. Patel smiled, the same smile she'd given me when I'd said the same thing about Whiskers. Of course not. But if you were, I'd say he's going to be a wonderful dog. Retrievers are special, loyal, gentle, great with kids, especially kids who might be going through changes. She looked at me meaningfully, and I looked away. Small town. Everyone knew about the divorce. On the way home, we stopped at the pet store, just for temporary supplies, I insisted. But somehow we left with a collar, blue, Jake's choice, a leash, proper puppy food, 2 toys, and a bed that cost more than my last haircut. For his new family, I explained to the cashier, who nodded like she'd heard that before. His new family is gonna be so lucky, Jake said, hugging the bag of supplies. They're gonna get the best dog in the whole world, but not as lucky as us, because we got to find him first. That evening, something magical happened. Emma called from college for our weekly check-in, and Jake immediately launched into the Buddy saga. I watched him gesture wildly, Buddy at his feet, and prepared for Emma to be the voice of reason. Instead, she squealed, "Oh my God, Mom, you have to keep him. Jake needs a dog. Remember how much Roscoe helped me through middle school?" Roscoe had been our golden retriever when Emma was young, a patient soul who'd absorbed countless tears and secrets. He'd passed just before the divorce, one more loss in a year full of them. "This is different," I protested weakly. "Is it though?" Emma asked. "Send me pictures." The pictures were a mistake. Buddy, it turned out, was photogenic. Within minutes, Emma had texted back, "I'm deceased. Look at his face. If you don't keep him, I'm dropping out and coming home." "Drama major," I muttered, but I was smiling. That night, Buddy slept in Jake's room. I know because I checked on them around midnight and found them both sprawled across Jake's bed, Buddy's head on Jake's pillow, Jake's arm thrown over Buddy's back. I took a picture, telling myself it was just to remember this temporary arrangement. Saturday brought more of the same. Buddy followed Jake everywhere, to the bathroom, to the kitchen, to the backyard. When Jake sat, Buddy sat. When Jake ran, Buddy ran. It was like watching 2 magnets find each other. "He really loves Jake," Mrs. Rodriguez observed over the fence. She'd brought over homemade dog biscuits. "For his journey to his new home," she said with a wink. "We're taking him to the shelter Monday," I said. "I have the day off." She handed me the biscuits. "Well, if you change your mind, my nephew runs a dog training school. First-time puppy parents get a discount." That evening, I found myself researching golden retrievers on my laptop while Buddy snoozed at my feet. Loyal, patient, excellent therapy dogs, good for children dealing with change. That last line stopped me cold. Jake had been handling the divorce well, or so I'd told myself. He didn't complain when his dad missed calls, didn't cry when weekend visits got canceled. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe he was holding it all in, being strong for me like I was trying to be strong for him. Just last week, his dad had canceled another weekend visit. A business trip, he'd said. Jake had just shrugged and said, "It's okay, Mom," before disappearing into his room. I'd found him later, building an elaborate Lego fortress, walls so high nothing could get in. I looked down at Buddy, who'd woken up and was gazing at me with those soulful brown eyes. "You know exactly what you're doing, don't you?" I whispered. His tail thumped against the floor. Monday morning arrived too soon. I'd taken the day off to handle the Buddy situation. Jake had begged to stay home from school, but I'd held firm. "I'll take good care of him," I promised, loading a tearful Jake onto the school bus. Buddy and I stood in the driveway, watching the bus disappear. He whined softly, already missing his boy. "I know, Bud," I said. "I miss him too when he goes." I'd planned to take Buddy to the shelter right away, like ripping off a Band-Aid. Instead, I found myself delaying. First breakfast, then one walk. He deserved that much. An hour brushing out his tangles while he melted into contentment. By noon, I was sitting on the living room floor, Buddy's head in my lap, crying. Not sad tears exactly. More like recognition tears. Because I finally understood what my heart had known from that first night. Buddy was already home. He'd found us, or we'd found him, or maybe we'd found each other. The timing was all wrong. I was working too much, money was tight, Jake had homework and soccer and a million other things. But when was the timing ever perfect? When did love ever arrive on schedule? I called the shelter anyway, some last vestige of responsibility. They were full, the nice woman told me. Emergency cases only. They could put me on a waiting list, but it might be weeks. Unless, she added gently, you're thinking of keeping him? Sometimes these things are meant to be. Yeah, I said, scratching behind Buddy's ears. Sometimes they are. When Jake got home from school, I was sitting on the porch with Buddy, who was sporting his new collar and tags. Jake froze at the gate, backpack sliding off his shoulders. Mom? So here's the thing, I said. The shelter's full, and I called 7 others within driving distance. They're all full too, and Buddy's already had his shots, and he seems to really like it here. And Jake didn't let me finish. He flew across the yard and threw his arms around Buddy, who wiggled with joy and covered Jake's face in kisses. We're keeping him? Really, forever? Really forever, I confirmed, and found myself at the bottom of a pile consisting of one 8-year-old boy, one wiggling puppy, and my own surprising, joyful tears. Forever and ever, Jake asked through his tears. Even when he chews shoes and has accidents and gets muddy? Even then, I promised. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared at the fence, beaming. I'll call my nephew about those training classes. That was 6 months ago. Buddy's bigger now, 50 pounds of pure love and energy. He knows sit, stay, and come, mostly. He's destroyed exactly 3 shoes and 1 couch cushion. He steals socks and hides them under Jake's bed. He's afraid of the vacuum, but will protect Jake from any and all threats, including suspicious butterflies. But more than that, he's healed us in ways I didn't know we needed healing. Just last month, Jake's dad canceled another visit, an important client meeting, apparently. I braced myself for Jake's disappointment, but instead of retreating to his room, he looked at Buddy and said, "Want to go to the park, boy? We can practice your tricks for Mom." At the park, while Buddy chased tennis balls with ridiculous enthusiasm, Jake opened up. "Sometimes I miss Dad," he said quietly. "But Buddy never cancels. He's always here." "I know, sweetie," I said, pulling him close. "And you're always here too," Jake added. "Even when you're tired from the hospital. You and Buddy, you're my always family." I had to blink hard against the tears. This kid, this dog, this life we'd built from unexpected pieces. And me? I come home from those long hospital shifts to a greeting that makes every hard day worth it. 2 sets of eyes, one brown and furry, one green and freckled, watching for my car. 2 hearts that think I hung the moon just by walking through the door. Last week we were at the dog park when I saw her. A woman sitting on a bench, watching everyone else's dogs play while tears rolled down her cheeks. I recognized the look. Loss. Grief. The particular loneliness that comes from loving a dog and losing them. "Excuse me," I said, Buddy immediately walking over to lean against her legs. "Are you okay?" She looked up, surprised, then down at Buddy, who was gazing at her with those magical brown eyes. I lost my golden last month. Cancer. I thought coming here would help, but it's hard," I finished. "Seeing all these dogs when yours is gone." She nodded, unconsciously petting Buddy, who had somehow maneuvered his head into her lap. We talked for an hour, about her dog, Max, about grief, about how dogs leave paw prints on our hearts that never fade. Buddy stayed right there, leaning against her, offering the comfort that Goldens instinctively know how to give. When we left, she was smiling through her tears. "Your dog is special," she said. "He found us when we needed him," I told her. "They have a way of doing that." Now, as I watched Jake and Buddy in the backyard, Jake throwing a ball, Buddy bringing it halfway back before getting distracted by a butterfly, I think about how a scared puppy under a playhouse changed our lives. The autumn leaves crunch under their feet as they run. And somewhere in the distance, that familiar train whistle carries across the valley again. How sometimes saying, "We're not keeping him," is just another way of saying, "I'm scared to love again." How the best things in life rarely arrive when you're ready for them. "Mom, watch this," Jake calls. "Buddy, sit." Buddy sits, tail sweeping the grass, mouth open in that golden retriever grin. "Good boy," Jake shouts, and Buddy bounds forward for his reward. A hug and a treat, and all the love an 8-year-old's heart can hold. I join them in the yard in the sunshine in this life we've built together. Jake, Buddy, and me. A family that doesn't look like the one I'd planned but feels exactly right. Because sometimes the best families are the ones that find each other in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes love shows up scared and hungry under a playhouse. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you're smart enough to let it in. Buddy drops the ball at my feet, tail wagging, eyes bright with anticipation. "Okay, boy," I say, picking up the slobbery tennis ball. "But just one more throw." Jake grins. We all know it's never just one more, but that's okay. We've got time. We've got each other. We've got a golden retriever who thinks we hung the moon. And standing there in our imperfect, beautiful yard, watching my son and his dog chase joy across the grass, I finally understand something I'd forgotten in all the chaos of divorce and single parenting and too many hospital shifts. Hearts don't actually break. They just get scared sometimes. They close up, build walls, say things like, "We're not keeping him," when what they really mean is, "I'm terrified to hope again." But then a puppy with scared brown eyes shows up under a playhouse. A little boy who needs something constant to love. An exhausted mom who's forgotten that love doesn't always come when you're ready. Sometimes it comes when you need it most. I thought I was rescuing a puppy that night. Turns out he was rescuing us.